Hello. It's Maundy Thursday. It's the Thursday of Holy Week. It's the day right before Good Friday in which we will be thinking about Jesus' death and all the events that lead up to that. Saturday will be a day of in-betweenness, where we find ourselves between the crucifixion and the resurrection. But today, at the beginning of this weekend, we are going to be thinking about the commandment that Jesus gave to his disciples in John chapter 13. I want to read that for you today. In John 13, we read, "Before the Passover celebration, Jesus knew that his hour had come to leave this world and return to the Father. He had loved his disciples during his ministry on earth, and now he loved them to the very end. It was time for supper, and the devil had already prompted Judas, son of Simon Iscariot, to betray Jesus. Jesus knew that the Father had given him authority over everything, and that he had come from God and would return to God. So he got up from the table, took off his robe, wrapped a towel around his waist, and poured water into a basin. Then he began to wash the disciples' feet, drying them with the towel he had around him. When Jesus came to Simon Peter, Peter said to him, 'Lord, are you going to wash my feet?' Jesus replied, 'You don't understand now what I am doing, but someday you will.' 'No,' Peter replied, 'you will never wash my feet.' Jesus replied, 'Unless I wash you, you won't belong to me.' Simon Peter exclaimed, 'Then wash my hands and head as well, Lord, not just my feet.' Jesus replied, 'A person who has bathed all over does not need to wash except for the feet, to be entirely clean. And you disciples are clean, but not all of you.' For Jesus knew who would betray him. That is what he meant when he said, 'Not all of you are clean.' After washing their feet, he put on his robe again and sat down and asked, 'Do you understand what I am doing? You call me teacher and Lord, and you are right, because that's what I am. And since I, your Lord and teacher, have washed your feet, you ought to wash each other's feet. I have given you example to follow. Do as I have done. I tell you the truth, slaves are not greater than their master, nor is the messenger more important than the one who sends the message. Now that you know these things, God will bless you for doing them.' He says, 'I have given you this example. Do as I have done to you.' Washing feet is an interesting thing. We don't do it as often as we probably should in our day and age. There are some traditions who make this a part of their normal practice of worship. But today, as I think about washing feet, I'm transported back to a day when I was at camp with a bunch of high schoolers. It was at our first church, and we gathered in a room with the teens from our church. I felt the Lord leading me to wash their feet. It's interesting to think about that. Teens at camp, some of them probably hadn't bathed in quite some time. All of them had been playing hard, enjoying the time with each other, and I was going to wash their feet. So Christy and I gathered them together, and we told them what we were going to do, and it was a little bit awkward. No, it was a lot awkward. But I remember going from student to student, taking their feet in my hands and washing them. There's one student that still stands out to me as I took his feet. It took a little extra something for me to do that. But as I washed his feet, I was thinking about the things that I need to overcome in my life in order to serve those around me. Water is an interesting thing. For the people of God, water has always, we've had a love-hate relationship with it. In biblical times, water, especially big bodies of water, were signs of chaos. In fact, if you go to the book of Genesis, you'll find that the description in Genesis about what things look like right before God created the heavens and the earth, he says, "In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. The earth was formless and empty, and darkness covered the deep waters. And the Spirit of God was hovering over the surface of the waters. There was a belief that chaos lived there. It was believed that in the depths there were unknown powers, and so there was a love-hate relationship with water because it brought livelihood. Fishermen made their living there, but it was always probably done with a bit of unnerved feeling because of what they were venturing out into. This takes on a real meaning when you think about the Exodus story and the people of God gather at the bank of a very large body of water, the Red Sea, and they are looking behind them at the Egyptian army coming down on them, wanting to bring them back to Egypt, and you have a big body of chaos in front of them. So you can see it, chaos on one side, chaos on another, and what are they to do? Well, God does something. If you know the story, God parts the chaos and allows the people of God to walk through, not just on muddy ground, but on dry ground. A true miracle. So when Jesus comes to that meal that night where he washes his disciples' feet, he takes water. Jesus had several interesting encounters with water. He walked on water. He calmed the seas in the midst of a storm. Jesus seemed to know how to command water to do that which he desired it to do. And so he took the water and he took the feet of these disciples and he washed them. He took that which he had redeemed and he washed his disciples' feet. I don't know about you. I can't hardly imagine what it would have been like to take Simon Peter's feet and even Judas's feet to serve those who he knew were going to betray him. And as today, as I think about Maundy Thursday, and I think about what we are called to be and do as followers of Christ today, I think about how we are called to serve. So I wonder, for you today on this Maundy Thursday, who might you be able to serve in a way that Christ is prompting you to? We really don't have too many options, do we? We have people in our home that we can serve, and maybe that's exactly where we need to start. We need to serve those who maybe are getting on our last nerve right now. But we are very technologically connected in this day. We have the opportunity to serve those that maybe are a long way off. What does it look like to pay someone's bill that you know they're struggling with? What does it look like to send a note to someone that you have had a tense relationship with for some time and write them a note seeking to reconcile? What does it look like for you to do the unordinary, the extraordinary for someone else? To serve them, even when you might know they're going to turn around and hurt you again. That's the model that we have in Jesus. Jesus serves those he knows will betray him. And he dies for them. We're going to think about that this weekend. Jesus dies for you and for I, to pay a price, to do for us what we could never do for ourselves. And that is bridge the gap that sin has created. So today, maybe find a moment to say, God, who should I serve today? And then, let's serve them. May the Lord be with you this weekend as you think about Jesus' love for you, for me, for the neighbors, for your enemies, for your coworkers, for your students, for everyone. May the Lord be with you. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord sustain us in 2020 in the midst of COVID-19 and all these things. May the Lord be with you.